Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode or another program of the Branch Talks. The Branch Talks is a community program that focuses on topics that impacts our lives. And we've had many, many different topics over the couple of weeks since we started with the lockdown. And it's really touched many, many people's lives. We had topics on gender-based violence. We had topics on business, on all kinds of things. And we're continuing from last week on our topic of drugs and drugs in the community and how drugs affect our communities out there, because it most definitely has a very, very, very a huge effect on especially our young people. And it seems like the devil is going younger and younger and younger to try and impact people's lives through drugs and destroy their lives really through drugs. Last week we had Clive and Renee Bushby from Shepherdsfield. Unfortunately, they're not with us tonight, but I don't want you to go away. We've got a great panel with us, and we look forward to the panel. We got some testimonies of people that has been involved in drugs before and how they came out. We have a testimony of a father whose son was involved in drugs and how they are coping and how they have coped with it. And then we also have somebody else that's also going to come on and talk about drugs. And Karen Felker, she works at a drug center where they help young people to get back on their feet again after using drugs. So I'm really looking forward to tonight. It's going to be an awesome program. But at the same time, I want to encourage you to keep on messaging us and tell us where you're watching from. I see there's already some people that's on board, but please get on. And Veronique Hoffman says, we're watching, Pastor. I say, thank you very much, Veronique. And I want you guys to continue to message and continue to come on this Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. It's going to be awesome to have you with us. And it's an interesting topic. And I know we're going to touch many people's lives out there. So I welcome you tonight to Branch Talks. Don't go away. Please share, do a favor and share, tag people into the broadcast, and also like the page. And so thank you very, very much. Hilda, I see you there. Hilda says she's watching. Jolene Peacock, Abasha Trotter. It's all some of the regular people that normally come on. Get your questions ready as well for our panel. They're ready to speak to you and to try and help you. That's my main aim, is to help people, and that's what we want to do. So firstly, I'd just like to introduce to you our panel. I'm going to start with Dion Kleinboy. He's been on our panel before. So it's about his second or third time with us. Dion Kleinboy is an educator, a teacher. The old word for it was a teacher at one of our high schools here, Chatty High School. But he's also, he's going to speak a little bit about education, I guess, because that's in his heart. But he's also a parent, and his family, his son was going through an episode in drugs and so on. And so I want to introduce him. He's going to give us also a personal testimony of how they as a family cope. So Dion, can you just say hi to everyone out there?
Evening, everybody. I can tell you're at the right place at the right time. So I pray that you're going to find the program interesting, informative, and you're going to get something from this program this evening. I firmly believe that, Pastor.
Yes, I believe so too, Dion. And then also I want to just introduce Karen to you. Karen Felkers is she's a professional social worker. She holds a master's in social working, and but she works with drugs and with young people who at the Ernest Malgas treatment center, drug rehabilitation center, and she helps young people to get on their feet again with drugs and so on. So I look forward to it. It's going to be very informative. Karen, you want to say hi to everybody, please?
Good evening, everybody. I hope you will enjoy the talk tonight.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that conversation. And then we have a special treat all the way from Portugal. and thank God for all the technology that makes it seems like he's sitting in the other room, but he's all the way in Europe, in Portugal. Clifton Levesque is his proper name. We just call him Cliffy. He's from Portugal. He is doing very well there. He works for a manufacturing company, and he's the MD of that company, and he's doing very, very well in Portugal. But many of you might not know, he also had a history of using drugs, and he's going to tell us about how we got off of that, and we're gonna sort of pick his brain today to try and help as many people as we can to get off of drugs. Clifton, do you want to say hi to everybody?
Yes, hello everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here with you all. And Pastor Fred, of course, thanks very much to have the opportunity to share a little bit about the experiences that I have had, but also the wonderful blessings that God has also bestowed upon me and my family, even though we have had, and I have had, a walk in life. And as a result of that, I think it's just wonderful to be able to add value to the viewers out there, and hopefully we pray that God can change lives through this. So thank you very much for this time.
Yes, thank you very much, Cliffy. So we have a wonderful panel. They're standing ready to just answer your questions and get all. I just want you to keep on messaging. Abasha, thank you very much for tagging so many people. Come on, get people on board. Ask your friends, phone your friends and family, give them WhatsApp messages. Tell them that we are busy talking about drugs in our community, and maybe there's some of them that can get help. Please, I'm going to ask Abasha, Veronique, Hilda, Jolene, and all you guys to keep on sharing the page and liking the page and messaging us. Tell us where you're watching from, and I'm going to ask all of the other people to get involved and get tuned in. And also, if you're not with us tonight, you can always watch the program afterwards as well. That's the great thing about Facebook and about getting, you can always watch it afterwards. And so I'm really excited. So guys, let us, as a panel, let us go straight into what we're going to talk about tonight. It's drugs in our community. Last week, I believe we had a wonderful kickoff. We had Clive and Renee, and they spoke about their rehabilitation center and how people can be helped through that. I want to kick off straight with Karen. Karen, can you lay a little bit of a foundation for us? What does it mean to be hooked on drugs? How does that process, how does that process work? And how do we get so easily hooked? I know some of us can't get off our sugary things. You can't get rid of the Coke or the coffee or the whatever it is. But for people hooked on drugs, they hooked on something illegal, something dangerous. And so can you tell us, just to lay a foundation, how does this whole process start according to you? Hi, Karen, can you hear me?
I am back. Technology is really messing with me tonight.
Okay.
Pastor, I don't know if you still have the presentation. I seem to be unable to log on my thing. So I should have done a test run. I'm unable to log on my laptop. Do you?
Yeah, let me. Karen
had
some kind of. Yeah, she had a PowerPoint she wanted to show, but can we just talk about it, Karen, in your own, even without the PowerPoint? Go for it.
No, I just want to start that it's never a simple issue. I always start my presentations off to say that substance abuse is a complex issue. There is no one answer to it. You can't ask someone, why don't you change your, kan jy nie gedink het jy weet mos beter, because a lot of times people don't know better, and the sense of reasoning is just out there. We in treatment, we say that it needs a multidisciplinary approach, which means you need your medical, you need psychiatry, you need psychology, you need social work, you need your educators, you need your community-based opportunities, and you need spiritual intervention as well when it comes to substance abuse treatment, when it comes to treating someone with a substance use disorder. We define it as a chronic relapsing brain disease that is characterized by compulsive substance seeking use despite its harmful consequences. And in there's some key words that I want us to take note of, which is it's a chronic, which means it is recurrent. It will continue to happen. It doesn't stop at one point. You don't get healing for it per se. It's a brain disease because it affects the way your brain is wired, your reward circuitry system, and how your brain receives its rewards, how it's wired to seek what is pleasure for it. So that's why we call it a brain disease. It's compulsive, which means sometimes you cannot help yourself. You do it despite the fact that you know it's going to be wrong. If I can just have one more hit, if I can just have one more drink, I know the harms that it's causing to my family, but I cannot help myself.
So, Karen, does it mean
Yes.
that that's why it's so dangerous to even experiment with it in the beginning? Because
In the beginning,
you get the high and you want that feeling again and again.
We're chasing it, but you cannot get it again. And that's why we say anybody that smokes, that will tell you rather don't start, because it's difficult to stop once you start. And teenagers don't often understand this because they sense that the developmental phase is we want to explore, we want to see, we want to experience things. And it's a fine line with allowing that to happen and allowing it to go too far. I don't want to go into that subject. It's a whole nother ballgame, but it's just for parents, especially, to have understanding for that. We say the principles of it is that there's a natural reward system in our lives. There's a natural way to doing things. If I'm tired, I should be doing exercises. If I'm tired, I should have natural ways of getting energy. But what we often do, the first thing we do in the morning is most of us start with a drug, which is caffeine. Most of us need that unnatural reward system to get us awake and to get us going for the day. What does a dog do? A natural animal does a natural exercise. It stretches before it goes. And that stretching of the body alone, just stretch it while you're lying on your bed, it doesn't take 30 seconds just to stretch yourself out, releases oxygen and gets the blood going, stretches the muscles and gets your blood warm, and then it moves faster. But we will rather, instead of spending 30 seconds or 45 seconds in a bed, get up, sleep kom by, so 2 uur, sit die ketel aan, haal die koppie uit, sit die koppie op die kas, suiker, koffie, melk, and do that instead of just doing a 45-second stretch, which is the natural way to do that. So we do it, everything we want to, we live in a quick society, in a quick fix. And then the other thing is this, the cycle of it is that pleasurable feelings. We call it the teeter-totter, with everything must go up, must come down. So that pleasurable feelings that you get from your substances is opposite. It's a negative when it comes to withdrawal. You get people, they are the life of the party once they are drunk or once they are intoxicated. But once that takes out, they are miserable. They are heavy to be around with. They're unpleasant to be around with, because everything that was the positive in that experiences becomes then the negative when there's withdrawal or when there's abstinence, when people abstain from that. We get that when we stop drinking coffee. You get a headache. You go through the withdrawal of that. And it's often the easiest solution to replace what is missing. It is sometimes it is an escape for us. For a lot of people, nobody sits in the sub A or grade 1 class and the teacher asks, what do you want to be? And the person says, I want to be an alcoholic, or I want to be a drug user. I will pop. But there is things that happens, and that is the complexity of it, because there's different reasons why people start using substances and different reasons why they stay in that cycle. I just want you to show the image. Yeah, okay, sure. There's 2 images I just want to share. Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
There's the 2 images that I want to share just there. The first one, the one on your left-hand side is a LSD user, and the one on the right-hand side is a normal brain. And this is done through neuroimaging. This is a MRI where they actually map brain activity. This person, obviously the red parts are the active parts in the brain. The front part of the brain, just above the nose in the voorkoppie, that is your prefrontal cortex, and that part of your body, your brain, is responsible for decision making. So just by looking at this, I think anybody can deduce that this person cannot make a reasonable decision because that part is inactive. So I want to just park that for now.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. That was comprehensive and wonderful. It gives us a better idea of how this thing works. I want to go to Cliffy here quickly. Cliffy, can you tell us, how did you start using drugs? How did you, were you just introduced, or what was your mental, what was going on when you started using drugs?
Yeah, Pastor Fritz, I mean, it goes back quite a long way in terms of just being sociable. So it's socializing as a teenager, going out with friends, you know, clubs and all of those things. And along the way, you get introduced and you want to be sociable and all of those things. And finally, it became something of part of associating your weekend socializing with drinking and finally experimenting, you know. So it started out purely with an experimental, and it wasn't something that happened every weekend after that. But, you know, in time, it happened 6 months later. Then it was, you know, a little bit 3 months later. And the time windows got shorter because you start to associate good times with all of that. And so it wasn't really, shall I say, chasing after it in the beginning, but it was more a gradual introduction into what you found in your circles that you moved in, maybe in that time.
Can I ask you a question? What was it? Was it about? Was there something that drew you to that crowd, if I can put it like that? What was? I know your history and I know your testimony. I know there was, your father was an issue growing up. Was that the reason for you seeking out that type of a crowd or the partying and so on? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that was one of the driving, shall I say, forces behind the way I finally started to navigate my teenage life, was literally searching for identity. Identity for the fact that I did not have any relationship with my father growing up as a child. After him leaving, I was less than a year old, and always searching for an identity as to who I am. And of course, this finally exponentially increased as a teenager. And finally, you seek acceptance in groups. You seek acceptance in the circles that you move in, irrespective of what type of circle it is. It doesn't matter if it's a circle that is mischievous, but they accept you. So, and that has been the journey where finally I started to move in circles, but also to feel part of something, as I was searching my identity and not having a fatherly reference in my life.
Yeah. So then obviously it becomes easy then to just accept anything that is given to you, because you want to feel a part of the group. You'll feel an outcast if you're not taking a spliff or a Zol or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, in the end, you might also have your own limits, and you might say that certain things I'll just never touch. And that was my case as well. There were certain things where I said, this is just not going to be. But irrespective, you were still searching for something, and there was a gap, and I had a gap inside, and that gap was the identity part of it. And so I continued living a very sociable life, and then your circumstances around you don't recognize, for example, that you're spending more money that you're earning. You don't recognize that there are certain gaps that start to be created in your personal life, in your financial life, in your relationships, because now you start to focus more on the good times, but in fact, you don't realize that you are creating such a big a negative gap in all those aspects of your life. And it happened really slowly over a period of time. And you know, there was one stage where things became a lot closer to each other. So you start to live more on the other side than in regular life. And that is how things really progressed over time.
Yeah. So it starts escalating. Can I, Dion, I want to bring you in here as well. You're a parent, and your son was involved in drugs for a while. And you're also an educator, so you see what's going on. What was the reason your son started drugs? Was it just being mischievous, or what was the reason, according to you, or according to your knowledge, Dion?
That question I can only answer now, Pastor. We've always been looking for the reason as to why it happened. From now, in what Mr. Levak also said, is that boys seek to fill an emptiness. Boys seek to fill a void. And sometimes they are on autopilot for outside influences when that void is not filled, when that emptiness is not satisfied. You get streaming along, you get flowing, you just go where anybody wants you to go. When they tell you this is what you need to do to be part of the in-group, or to fit in, or to be part of our friendship circle, you have to do this. The group code becomes important. You know, as a teenager, it's very difficult to control the relationships that we have with our kids, because the house becomes less important as the peers outside of the house. The identity of the child is formed outside. And if we don't guard our kids, if we don't lay the foundation for their development of an identity as parents, even as we as parents that is there, then it's going to be difficult for them not to go along with what the group expect of you. So standing back now after years, Pastor, I can say he was chasing something. He was hunting after something, and he couldn't find what he was looking for. And what fueled our situation is that he was certified at a very early age as ADHD, which makes it extremely difficult for them to cope. Because a person with ADHD, their defenses and their power to say no is limited by their condition that they have. So now you use that Zol with the ADHD coupled with the medication that the doctors prescribe. Ritalin is a very serious, how can I say, it fuels the use of drugs, Pastor. It fuels the use of smoking ganja. Now that was a cocktail for our son to be ravaged for a quite number of years by this demon called Daha, Pastor. So he was actually, as I've said, he was kind of like an autopilot. He didn't know what to do. He couldn't say no. Sometimes when you look at him, Pastor, and he does something, you know, he can be one now. He can be the model child that every father wants, that every mother wants. But the very next day, he can be the complete opposite. That is how dangerous the Ritalin and the peer pressure and the pressure at school, plus the use of the substance, had an impact on our son's life. And on us as parents, when we found out that the guy was doing that stuff, my wife and I nearly killed him that evening, Pastor. Ons het hom 2 bek geëet. I was using the hockey stick and my wife was strangling him. We tackled him because we were disappointed. But if I look at it now, I would say that was the biggest mistake that we have done. Because basically what we've done that evening is to offer him to find the love that he seeks outside in the street. My brother is not going to treat me like this. My brother is going to respect me. So as a parent, it's the biggest mistake you can make when you find out that your child is using. Don't you, as his only lifeline, cut that also off. Because in the streets, the code is different, the rules is different, the love is different, and you're going to regret if you send your son right there, Pastor.
Yeah, yo, Dion, hockey stick and strangle. My word, I guess you're so shocked that and so disappointed that you don't know what to do. Karen, I know you deal with young people. Tell us a little bit more about Ernest Malgas Treatment Center. What do you guys do there? And do you, and if you can maybe say, let's talk about a little bit about answers. How can we get out of this thing? What are you guys doing there in Ernest Malgas?
I think what is good about the program at the Ernest Malgas is that it's an inpatient program. So the children are removed from their environment. You kind of in the bubble. You're in a safe. It's a controlled environment. And the service that are rendered to you there, it is a basket. You get everything. So
And what are the ages there? What is your age?
13 to 17 years old, either
Okay.
boys or either girls. And one of the things that parents always tell us is that the child talks a lot once they come from the treatment center, because we teach them to articulate. You must be able to say, when I'm angry, you don't react. You don't mumble around and throw things around and demand things. You talk about it. You say, I don't like it when you do this. I don't like it when you call me this. I don't like it when the neighbors say things about me and you don't defend me against it. This is the things that hurt me. So we teach them to talk. We teach them this is the dangers. We tell them about their triggers, because everybody needs to know what their trigger is. My trigger is when I go to the shop and I'm hungry, I will always buy a chocolate when I don't need it. And sometimes I don't want it, but it's a trigger because I've been conditioned in that. When I go there, I feel the chocolate will feel like I'm neglecting it if I don't buy something. And I mean, I feel like I'm offending it by not doing it. So I know when I go to the shops, I must make sure that I'm not hungry, that I'm not bored, that I'm goal directed. I have a list of things that I must buy. If it's not on the list, I don't buy things. So that is my triggers, being hungry, going to the shop. So we teach children that if you're with the wrong friends, if you go back to the wrong friends, if you stay with them, you will be able, after treatment, anybody, adult or child, after treatment, you will be able to say no. The first time, the second time, the third time, maybe the fourth, fifth, 10th time, you'll be able to say no. But if you keep on sticking to your friends, if you go back to the same environment, it becomes more and more difficult, because now you get the confidence that I can handle this. I'm doing this. Maybe I can try just once. And once you do it once, then that is, I almost want to say it's the end, but it's the beginning of the end. And then you go into a relapse, and then a whole cycle starts again of use, because now I feel I failed. I might as well go on with it until I can get myself back into order again. So the service that we give there is we do try and teach them the skills. Children are still young, and we try and find out as fast as possible with anybody with a substance use disorder. Why did you start using? Not just when, what, but why. What are the reasons? When do you use it? What led you to use it? And what are the things that we can put in place for you to replace that? Instead of using, let's give you something else, a different industry to do, different something to occupy you with. So yeah, I don't know if I'm answering you there.
Yeah, no, you're definitely answering. Let me just say hi to some people again, just to invite some more people to message in. Please, guys, we want some questions. If you have any questions, please tell us. Our panel is right here to help you. And it also directs the conversation so that we know what you need to hear. I want to say hi to Raymond Sais, says he's watching, Buiswa Slangoti, Janice, Damar Fortain. Buiswa says interesting information. Thank you. I want to say hi to Lerato Lebopo. She's the CEO of the Nelson Mandela Bay YMCA. Thank you, Lerato, for watching. Cherise Kivitz, the Kivitz family. Haroldine Sienda, she's from Cape Town. She says very good evening and a good, interesting topic. Mike Layard is also watching. Abasha has been tagging away. Wonderful. Thank you very much. She's a star. Abasha, then Michael Ruiz. So on. And Abasha says, I am a recovering alcoholic and recovering drug addict. What helped me was when I came out of rehab, I submitted myself to a higher power called Jesus. I also started attending AA classes, which is a support group that are really important for further recovery. Also getting myself a sponsor was important. And that's a lot of little things that she's mentioning there that's very, very important. Cliffy, I want to bring you in here. Before I speak to Cliffy, I just want to say, keep on messaging, keep on tagging and sharing and liking our page is very, very important. Cliffy, we were talking about triggers. Can you remember what some of your triggers was? Was it the Friday night is coming, I must be with my friends? Or what was the kind of triggers that made you want to smoke again or whatever?
Yeah.
And can you tell us, I think we need to just to fast forward because we're already halfway through the program. Can you tell us, Cliffy, as well, when did it all unravel for you? Tell us the type of things that you did. You started forgetting. I know you were working. You started skipping. When was your worst time? When did it start unraveling for you?
So, as far as triggers were concerned, I think it really just became a weekend thing. So you only associated weekends with that, and I could not associate a weekend with anything else in terms of being out. And I've also, I started drinking at a young age, sociably as well, and I really associated drinking and weekend together. So, and that, of course, was shall I use the word foundation, or the starting point of it all. And then if I now fast forward quite a few years ahead, in my early 20s, 21, 22, that is when things started to really, or the realizations started to really come about, because finally I was very devoted to, and still very devoted to, conscientiousness and really working hard. And I always did that. However, there were times now where I started to not be able to be on time at work, or my attendance started to slip here and there and so forth. And sometimes I would, in the end, also be not be okay with it, but it was one consequence of it, and the reality did not hit. And finally, I got to a point when I looked around me, financially, I had a lot of debt as well. So I built up a lot of debt, many various, loans with different banks and so forth. And so I had to find a way then to be able to survive, more or less, to get through that. And when where it unraveled really is that, I moved out on my own, and finally just looked at everything and said, I just cannot go on like this, because as much as I might be committed to very good things in life, I was also, shall I say, committed to the other side as well when it comes to my weekend life. And it actually it collided to a point where something had to give between the two. And finally, I really had if I go to the part of how things changed for me, was that the realization that the consequences of my actions and the reasons for it and the root thereof was connected to my father. Was one single moment really in my life where Pastor Denver Marks came to pray for me. I was living in Fernglen, and came to pray for me and just said, you need to forgive your father. And he just stood and said, on behalf of your father, I want to apologize for abandoning you. And that was the biggest, most significant part in my whole life up to date, was that single moment, 2 minutes of forgiving my father, who was already passed away for many years, who I never knew. And that 2 minutes changed my whole life, forgiving my father.
Wow.
And from that day, 13 years ago, more than 13 years ago, through forgiveness and forgiving my father, my identity changed completely, and I had a new reference in life. So and never ever look back from there.
Wow, Cliffy, that's an amazing story. And I know you gave your life to Jesus, and that, like Abasha says, that's really, that spiritual aspect is a very, very important aspect. And like Karen said, it's a multifaceted thing as well. I know for some people from last week, for some people it's instant, and for others they have to deal with all the issues after accepting Jesus into their lives. They still have to deal with all the issues. Dion, what was the worst time for you as parents? Maybe I know there is parents watching us that is going through turmoil. Stuff is being stolen at home. They don't know how to relate to their son. Can you tell us, or daughter for that matter, what is there any perhaps any advice, or can you tell us what was the worst? How was it in the Kleinboy household, and what happened for him to come to a realization to stop?
Pastor, it was an absolute nightmare. When you love somebody so much and you see what this thing is doing to that person, makes it for you as a parent very difficult to cope. Now, the mistake that most of our parents make is that you will be able to control the circumstances that your son or your daughter finds themselves in. And in the process, we forget that we have needs of our own. So luckily, we are a very God-fearing and supportive couple. I've got the most amazing wife who understands, who loves unconditionally. If we didn't love our son unconditionally, we would have lost him completely. So sometimes these things make the parents frustrated, and they just wanna they become so entangled with not doing the right thing that they are not helping the child. They are keeping him caught up in a system because the family is a positive factor of resilience is not there. So if we as a family remained supportive, we kept on encouraging him, we kept on motivating him, we kept on loving him, even though that is hurting us over and over again. If we didn't provide that for him, you're going to lose your son and your daughter completely, because that child is crying out for help. And if you in the family do not give it, or if there is not a positive factor in that child's life, like a caring teacher, like a caring community member, like a caring pastor, or somebody that cares, that is a positive constant in the child's life, you're going to lose your son. That can even result in death, because the child is hopeless, the child is frustrated, and the child cannot cope. The child don't stand up in the morning and says, today, I'm going to make the life of my parents a living hell. It's sometimes because they cannot cope. They don't know how to cope. And what is strange is, you might think that it's only sons and daughters that comes from a little troubled background. No, it's people that is sane. They can make sane decisions. But there is so many things, so many triggers in their life that they don't know how to cope at the same time. They do not know how to cope. And the only way is to escape a reality that makes life miserable for them. But what they don't realize is that tomorrow morning, the same problems is going to exist. Because if we don't provide as a father and a mother, if we don't provide the background, madam and sir, you will most certainly lose your son. Into, Pastor, when we saw the state, the personal state, they don't wash anymore. They wear clothes for weeks on end. They wear the same socks for weeks on end. It's terrible as a parent, yo. So we were just trying to be there for him, to motivate him, not to reject him. Sometimes it got me frustrated. That it makes you mad. But you know what was the amazing thing, Pastor? The day when God said to me very clearly, now you've been with rehab, you've been with counselors, you've been with people that advise you, take your hands off the issue now. Let me be in control of the solution. And that became a pivotal point in our son's recovery. When we as parents, we stood back, we allowed God to intervene, though it didn't come by immediately. It was a process to constantly be there. We were just there for him as an outlet as parents to make him understand, son, you can still come to us. You can still come and complain. You can still
Yeah.
come and talk. And that is important for parents if they really want to help their children and even for them to cope as well, Pastor.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I think it's important from a parent's perspective because there's a lot of parents that is going right now through the same things that you are going through. And Karen, it's also important to have support groups for parents, which I know there's a lot of support groups for drug users, but there's not a lot of support group for parents. Jolene Peacock is asking you, Karen, how and where can I refer parents to that wants help for their child at Ernest Malgas Rehab Center, and is there a cost involved? Can you just answer Jolene quickly?
Okay, that's a state-funded organization, so you don't pay anything for it. I think the next intake is on 7 October. So what you can do is you can just send me inbox, and then I'll just get the details from her, and I'll link it to a social worker, because all applications go through social workers, because that social worker must receive the child again when they go back into the community. We don't take walk-ins because there's no professional services attached to that. It's just like if you go to the hospital, you must go via the clinic or via your doctor first. So then you refer back to your doctor for aftercare treatment and that. So yeah,
Yeah.
just welcome to inbox me with the details.
So, Karen, can you also because can you believe it, the time is flying. Can you tell us what, let's move the conversation forward, and how can people be helped? How can a young person, how do you guys help your people, your young people that come there between the ages of 13 and 17? Abasha was saying a mouthful. She was saying how a mentor is important. She submitted her life to Jesus, how she was attending AA classes, how she got a sponsor, and so on and so on. What can people do out there to help their children?
Institutional care is always the last option, because that person must still come back into the community. So we try as far as possible to have the person rehabilitated in the community where they are. And let me just see if I can share this. I just quickly, I don't want to take too much time, but I just want to us to just see this. I will say disabled participants share screen sharing. Okay. Host. So we say that the best place for anybody to be is within the family system, within the family environment, because that is your nucleus of your social structure. That is the first socialization that you get within your family structure, and that is the first support that you need. If you have a problem, you're supposed to start within your family first, but that's not always possible because we have dysfunctional families. So as far as possible, the services try not to only work with the substance user, but also with the family as well, so they can support that person. Um, you're biologically attached to this family, and it is your, we say it's the most immediate environment for a person. So when you have a problem, when you cry, when we find guys that are, I don't want to use the word criminal because it's a politically correct word, that when they are in jail, when they're in St. Albans, they want their mother. They did crimes, but they want their mother, because that is the person I feel attached and that is the person I feel safe to. So if we can empower that person, your support system, it makes it so much better for you to in your recovery. So as far as possible, we want to reach out to families, and I know there are support groups for families. This Al-Anon that's supporting support groups for families. Teen, that's for teenagers of parents with alcohol abuse, partners of alcohol abuse. There's narcotics. I think Narcotics Anonymous also has a support group for family members that while the person is in treatment, the family is also being empowered and as to what to expect. When this person is moody, don't react to that, but ask them, offer them opportunities. We try to really empower people with the skills to identify the signs, not to panic when you see here's something happening now. This child hasn't been sleeping for days or he is sleeping for days, but how to react on that. We teach parents to have a civil conversation, to have the actual conversation, because a lot of times you will have parents, they see the child has been acting a certain way for 6 months already. And only when they were expelled at school, then they reacted because the school now acted to something. But when they noticed the first time, they didn't say anything. So in terms of that, families need to be capacitated also how to deal with substance. We teach them what is substance use disorder, what happens, why does this person do it. It very much has to do with how you build your memory and how you find your pleasure. So you need to have alternate options for that person. If he finds if he's bored on it, or if he's bored, you as parent must be able to be witty enough to say, okay, let's do this. Or kan jy voor die TV sit en jy los jou kind en your child has nothing to do. Your child is not occupied because you want to rest. It's your child, it's your responsibility. No matter how old the child is, you need to take responsibility and be involved in the child's life. That's why we do find in certain socioeconomic groups, there's less substance abuse than in others because a lot of that has to do with parental involvement. And I think Clifton is testimony to that as well. There was not as much parental involvement in that. Right, Clifton?
Yeah.
Support in terms like that. So that wavering a bit. And then I think Dion on the other end was, they were more involved with their son. Right? So it varies. That's why we always start to say it's complex. You need each case is taken individually as it is. But the main things is there is help available, and we do want to offer help to parents. We want parents to be capacitated to understand why this is happening. We say it's a chronic disease. We want to teach you as much about substance abuse as we will as the clinic will teach you about high blood. If your child has diabetes, what is the right foods to eat? What is the right exercises? When is the right time to sleep? And all of this, how to maintain a healthy lifestyle in terms of that. So the same things we want to capacitate parents on.
Amen. Well, Karen, that's awesome. We are on. We've got about 10 minutes left, so our time has gone by. Cliffy, let me just come back to you here. So you told us that Pastor Denver came, prayed for you. That 2 minutes changed your life. So you accepted the Lord Jesus in your life, and there was a real change, because the word repentance means to change your mind. So you had a real change of mind about your life. But I know for a fact it wasn't just easy from there on. How did you keep your way? How did you keep your way free and clear from drugs?
Yes, Pastor Fritz, I mean, that moment when the Lord delivered me, it really was an absolute physical change. My life changed from that moment. But yes, I did make some practical decisions, if I can use the word practical, and joined a home cell. I was very active, of course, in ministry. Made a choice to limit my circle only to my cell group at church and so forth. And, after maybe losing so much, not only relationships, but also financially and all of those things, I had to rebuild. So I made a decision to rebuild, and the rebuilding process includes many things. You need to understand, what does it mean now to recover financially? What does it mean now to start over on your own? Rebuild relationships, start new ones, valuable ones. So I started really valuable relationships in Word of Faith as well, and I stuck to it. So I made a choice, and I did not waver from that choice. However, the Lord and the Holy Spirit was so evident in present in my life. It also made it a little bit easier in the sense that I really just wanted to please the heart of God anyway, knowing that there are practical things that also you need to maybe do, and not unnecessarily expose yourself to environments or people or those things that could then take you back. So yes, it wasn't that easy. The biggest challenge that I faced really was more or less starting over and just rebuilding everything. So and making a very, very strong decision after the Lord really revealed where my identity lies, and finally Him really showing me that He can be Abba Father, and also place spiritual fathers in my life, and that grounded me heavily. And structure. A lot of structure, a lot of routine. I focused on my work. I focused on my building a new family. Of course, I was involved in sales. I was ministering at Shepherd's Field for 2.5 years, also, as well, Pastor Fritzy. So I got involved, and I built a routine. After 2 years, you finally life started to become more, and the picture forward started to become more clear. As well. So that was more or less the steps that I took, as well. Even though physically I never felt the need or never had a craving, zero. I mean, it was miraculous in terms of my desires, because my purpose was made known, and the root causes was made known, and those were dealt with as well.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Cliffy. Dion, shortly, because we don't have a lot of time, Jolene Peacock is also asking, does social development offer drug awareness at our schools to empower our kids? Obviously, I think Karen can surely answer that, but you're a teacher. How often do you see drug awareness campaigns going, and what is your feeling about drug awareness in our schools? Is there enough of that? Dion, just and final, just 1 or 2 minutes.
Yeah. Pastor, most of the schools don't utilize the resources that are there. And as my house is there, but you can ask Karen if the schools do send kids in mass to that treatment center. Most of the awareness campaigns, or most of the intervention, comes from the heart of teachers that do have the heart for these boys and girls that's broken, Pastor. Most of the programs comes from what made it for me easy is my life experience as well. I was a complete 200% server of drug addiction. So that had me with a little advantage of understanding where these boys come from, what they go through, the normal tricks that they try in getting away with things like that. But what is most important in trying to assist these boys is that don't compare them. If they come from a dysfunctional family, don't refer to the boy, you're just like your dad, you're going to end up like your dad. That is the worst thing that you can do as a parent. Also, if you have other kids in the house, and obviously the person that's addicted to drugs are going to affect the house as well. Don't show preferential treatment between your children, parents. Treat them equally, although you know this one needs more love and more attention. And then the last thing, stop speaking death over your children just because he's going through a rough patch. Don't do that. You're gonna end up with nothing. You are nothing. You're gonna get nowhere as a parent. And the biggest breakthrough on school, let me talk about school level, comes when a teacher open up their hearts for those kids. That is the first step in trying to help those kids. You are interested in them. You want to know what's happening to them. Now, for me, what is important, Pastor, you must smoke 200 zolls per day. I don't care. For me, it's the cause, the reason, the root. Because if you understand the root, your intervention changes. Your attitude towards the school child changes. You devise your teaching plans according to the needs of the kids. For instance,
Yes.
I won't treat a boy harsh that I know that's going through a difficult time at home. I'm going to treat him with discipline, but also a little different, so that I can be a source for him to come to. Because at home, you get the father that's a drug addict, you get the mom that's an alcoholic, there's no support system at home. So you at the school becomes a sanctuary pastor. You become an important source to try to solve the drug addiction of that child.
Thank you, Dion. Man, I have to cut it there. We don't have a lot of time. Karen, we literally have maybe a minute and a half or 2 minutes. Lerato Lebopo from the YMCA says, this is a very enlightening conversation. At the YMCA, we face some of these challenges with the kids we work with, and we can't do it on our own. Such support is very much needed. She's right. Organizations needs to take hand in hand. So is the organizations, is Ernest Malgas working with the schools? Is it working with the YMCA? Beverly Hendrick says, Ernest Malgas, best and safe place. My son was there, but parents have misconceived something. Their job as a parent is finished, but it only starts. The family is a part of the recovery. Thank you, Karen, for the good seeds you have planted in my son's life. So Beverly saying thank you to you, Karen, for the work. Karen, we've got literally a minute or so. What can you tell me about working together with other organizations to help families?
Anybody that sends an invitation to us, we will help them. There's a lot of organizations in the community. There's a substance abuse forum for PE. We work with organizations rendering substance abuse services in there. You're welcome to contact me. You're welcome to contact the department. We will link you with the relevant organization. But it takes a community, it takes everybody's involvement. So if you are involved, if you are interested, please let us know. But you're welcome to come into contact with us. That we do. I also do trainings. I do trainings with families. I do trainings with professional people as well, in communities and schools as well, just to understand what it entails, what is substance use disorder, and what is needed in recovery.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Karen. Thank you for the work you guys are doing. And for all of you guys, I want to ask you guys just to post your details, perhaps, especially Karen, to post your details in the message section of the Facebook messages, and so that people can get hold of Ernest Malgas. And maybe Dion, if you would like to do, maybe there's some young people who want to speak to you. I know Cliffy is in Portugal, so I don't know how much help, but he can surely. I don't know if you guys want to, you can put your addresses and stuff, email address, perhaps people can get hold of you to help them. So thank you very much for watching Branch Talks. It was a real blessing to have all these panelists here with us. Next week, we shifting a bit. We're going to talk next week. I have a very interesting topic. I'm trying to get together all the head boys and head girls of the different schools, and we're going to talk about how life is for them in this year. This is a crazy year to be in matric, and so we're going to talk to them a little bit, and maybe Dion will join us again next week, and we're going to try and get some of the leadership of schools and so on, so we talk schools next week. So thank you very, very much for tuning in. Thank you for everybody that shared messages, shared likes, tags. Thank you very much, and go watch the program, share the program with everybody. So thank you very, very much. God bless you. Thank you for watching Branch Talks.